Howdy, this is Karen from Karen Dawn Designs, and today I'm going to show you how to use the yarn database on Ravelry to find patterns for your stashed yarn. I'm going to use a stashed yarn, Mrs. Crosby hat box, as my example. So the easiest way to do this is if you already have yarn in your stash. But if you don't have yarn in your stash, you can use the Ravelry Yarns tab and find the yarn. If it is in your stash, then if you look over here at About This Yarn, you can click on the name of the yarn and it will take you to the Ravelry database About This Yarn. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. Now I can see the Ravelry database entry for Mrs. Crosby hat box, and this tells me all about the yarn. But really what I want to do is pay attention to two tabs, pattern ideas and the projects. So I'm going to start by talking about pattern ideas. Go ahead and click the tab for pattern ideas, and you'll see that Ravelry has come up with some patterns that multiple people have used this yarn to make. So you can just start here and scroll down. You can see there's this nice little shawl named Hitchhiker that several people have made. Another shawl called French Can. And scroll down, it looks like shawls are pretty common, but here's a cardigan. More shawls, there's another cardigan. You can go to the next page and find more projects. There's a hat, and you can continue on like that. But if there are a lot of projects, this one is probably manageable. But if there are a lot, you could narrow it down using the options up here. From here, all crafts, you can narrow it to crochet, knitting, loom, or machine knitting. I'm going to go ahead for this example and leave it to all. But if you like crochet, for example, then you can select that. For categories, your options will give you things that are actually already in here. So if I am interested in shawls, I can click accessories, neck, torso, and then click shawls, and it will show me only the shawls, and it'll take out the hat and the cardigans and all of those things. I'm going to go ahead and clear this filter. If you want to start over and see all the options, click clear filters. One other thing that you can do is you can see how many skeins you have and the projects that are going to match your number of skeins. So for me personally, I only have one skein of this yarn. So I want to say that it requires between 0 to 1 skein. Click the search. And now I have only the projects that I can make using one skein of this yarn. So I have a shawl, a hat, here's a cowl, another hat, so you can see some different options. If I had 2 skeins, I could change this to 2, and that will give me more options because it'll show both the items that use 1 skein as well as 2 skeins. So again, we're back to some of these shawls that were here. If you are lucky enough to have 4 or 5 skeins, you can select that and say you want to really use up as many of your skeins as possible. You could say it requires 3 to 4 skeins. And search and see if anything comes up, and indeed this is where you will find some of these cardigans as well as a shawl and a sweater. So this is one way that you can use the Ravelry database to see some ideas of what other people have done with this yarn. Notice in the entries for the suggestion, you can see the pattern, you can see a couple of the projects that people have made using this yarn. You can also see how many skeins of this yarn this pattern usually uses. So if you wanted to check and see what the yarn looks like in this cardigan pattern, you can click View Projects, and that will take you specifically to the projects using this particular yarn and this pattern. So you can get an idea what some of the different colors look like when they're knit into this cardigan. And make your decision on whether this is the right project for you. The other option is to go up here to the Projects tab, and this one has over 1,000 projects. So when you click there, it will give you a lot of options that you can look through. And especially since there are so many projects, it might be a nice idea to narrow it down to see if there's something in particular you are looking for. So the first thing that you might do is pick all the projects that have been favorited. So you think that you want to pick something that has worked really well and that other people have liked. So you can click all favorited projects. And there's still quite a few to choose from, but that kind of narrows it down to some of the more popular options. You can clear that search by clicking Clear Search up here, and you could filter for other types of filters. So again, you can pick your craft if you want to see what have people made with crochet with this yarn. You can click the crochet option, and now you see only the projects that have been made using crochet. I'm going to go back up here and clear that search, show you some of the other filters. Project status, if you only want to see projects that people have finished, you can click that. If you want to see particular categories, for example, you know that you want to make a shawl, you can go to accessories, neck, and torso, and then click on shawl. If you only have one color, you can click on the one for one color, and that way you won't get patterns that have multiple colors of yarn. Or if you, on the opposite, say you have 3 colors of this yarn, then you could click 3 colors and only find patterns that use 3 colors, so you can get some options there. So that's a really nice way, especially if you have multiple colors, to help find some pattern suggestions. You can also check particular color families. You can check if you have friends projects, you can check that. Or if you're in groups, you can check group members projects. But I think probably the craft, the project status to find finished projects, project category, and number of colors are going to be your most helpful. Let's say, talking about colors, that you want to find all the projects that have been made in the specific color that you have. So my color was called Monkey Orchid. And if I type that into the box and click search, it will only pull up projects that are made with that particular color. So you can see how this color looks when it's been knit into several different projects. So you can tell that if it's used in multiple colors, kind of some of the options people have put it with, and then you can also just see what this colorway looks like when it's knit up. So especially for variegated yarns, this can be a very helpful option to see what those yarns actually look like when they are knit into different projects. I hope you found this tutorial helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me on Ravelry. I am Karen Dawn. And make sure to subscribe to this channel for more tutorials on Ravelry and knitting. Thanks, and happy knitting!